Hi, this is Iver van the Zand, SAP Analytics, and today I'm going to show you how to create a value driver tree in SAP Analytics Cloud. The value driver tree in SAC is an important instrument because it can show the interdependencies of hierarchical measures, so you can see after a simulation what is the impact of changing a matrix to the overall outcome. Creating value driver trees all depend on the correctness of the model that you created in SAP Analytics Cloud. Let me open the model that I will use for this demonstration. I click my models. I search the one I'm looking for. This one is using data on hi-fi equipment, music equipment. And this is the one I'm interested in. First of all, the model that I created is a planning enabled model. As you can see, I have a number of attributes being time. I have various versions of the data, actuals, budgets, and in my case also forecast versions of the data. I have brands with a hierarchy in it. I have shops. And I have countries using long let coordinates and even a group level. The interesting element over here is the accounts where my metrics are defined. And the thing I want to highlight is the following. If you look at my revenue number, then you will see that it decomposes in three elements: direct revenue, indirect revenue, and supported revenue. They all have an increase, drive an increase to the overall revenue number, and as such I created a hierarchy to the final metric revenue, total revenue. For costs, I have two types of cost, labor cost and cost of goods, and they have are indicated as an expense, and they drive the overall cost number, as you can see over here, cost. Total revenue and total cost on their own drive increased for revenue and as an expensive for cost, drive my gross profit, my final metric. This hierarchy of measures is key when creating a value driver tree in a correct way. That's why I'm going to use this model where you will see in the end a value driver tree that has a correlation between direct revenue, indirect revenue, supportive revenue onto the total revenue number, labor cost and cost of goods onto the total cost number, and both revenue and cost onto the final metric, gross profit. Let's create the value driver tree right now based upon this model. To start creating a value driver tree, we choose our home menu, choose create, go to process and tick the sub choice value driver tree. I'll take that one and I give it a name. I type sample VDT hyphy. I can add a description and now I choose the model of choice. This is the one we just discussed with revenue and cost rolling up to gross profit. I tick create. The value driver tree menu gives me three tabs. One is on the time and modeling choices where I can set up the default calculation period, the start and the end year of the calculation period, and also the default presentation period, with the beginning year and the end year in my case because I choose year as granularity. More important, we have two fields where we can define calculation, where we can define our value driver tree, and a second place where we define how we consume it. So there is a difference between creating the value driver tree and developing it versus the way that you consume it. As you can see, I already have by default a node on my canvas, but I'm going to choose the next option that partially automates creating the value driver tree for me, and that is this choice. It is called autocomplete, and when I tick that button, I get a dialog box asking me what of the accounts I want to include in my value driver tree. I'm going to use the hierarchy of attributes of accounts that we just discussed, being everything regarding cost, cost of goods, labor cost that roll up to total cost as we defined in our model, revenue, supportive revenue, indirect revenue, direct revenue that rolls up to total revenue, and both roll up to gross profit. I only select these. I want to have these as part of my value driver tree, and I click OK. First of all, I'm going to delete the predefined untitled box over here and take that out of my value driver tree by selecting untitled and click the delete button. What I now have is exactly a representation in the calculation phase of my value driver tree on how I want the various hierarchies of metrics to roll up to the final gross profit. All the nodes are now available. So a node is the individual tile that you see over here, supported revenue for example, but also total revenue is a node, and total cost node and total revenue node roll up to gross profit. What I now need to do is bring this to my consumption layer. I can do that in various ways. I can tick one of the nodes and say over here in this menu option to copy it to my consumption node. I can say copy node. Then it will copy only labor costs. What I, however, also can do is copy a full branch. What is a branch? A branch is the link between a higher level node and its subnodes. So if I tick total cost and I would say copy branch, then it will copy only total cost with labor and cost of goods to my final list. To make it a bit easier, what I'm going to do is delete these, remove branch. I go back to my calculation view, and to make it easy for myself, I click the highest level, in this case gross profit. I click copy branch, and you will see that it copies the full branch now for me. Next, I need to choose on what version of the data I'd like to use my value driver tree. I can use actual, budget and forecast for the simple fact that I created in my model versions for each one of these. Let me choose actual for the moment. I can already test my node by clicking on one of the metrics and run the calculations. For the moment, I'm just going to save it. My value driver tree named sample VDT Hi-Fi is ready now for use. So let's save it and let's create a new story using this value driver tree. So I click create story. I'm going to add a canvas page and I'm going to insert the value driver tree by clicking the plus button and choosing value driver tree. Of course, it will ask me to find the value driver tree that I just created. Oops. So it was sample VDT.Hi-Fi, and over here you will see that my value driver tree is now ready for use. I can zoom in. I can add one of the tiles and say I want to increase this indirect revenue number with 14%. OK it. And it automatically generates the interdependencies and the effect that that increase has on the gross profit. Of course, in one canvas page, you can easily combine multiple value driver trees at one page. Thanks for your attention.